Okay, class, we're about to start section 2.5, Order of Operations with Integers. Section A, Simplifying Expressions. From now on, we will call sign numbers integers. Integers are whole numbers and their opposites. Note, 0 has no opposite, but is an integer. Okay, now we have to go through the order of operations again. You can read this at your leisure, but you just need to remember that first we would do all parentheses, and we know the different parentheses are your standard set. It won't let me write that here, so I'm going to write this off to the side. You have your standard set, your brackets, and also your braces. Those are your standard set of parentheses. Now exponent, we know is powers. Now we know multiply or divide, and we know it's whichever one comes first from left to right. And number 4, addition or subtraction, whichever one comes first from left to right. Now we scroll on to the second page. Now we have to evaluate this. Now remember how I told you all how to do problems. We should read the signs first. First we look at these parentheses. We cannot do anything inside of these parentheses. But we have multiplication, subtraction, and multiplication. So we know we would do multiplication first. A negative times a positive, we know would give us a negative. And so it'll be negative, and 3 times 6 is 18. Minus 5 times is negative 2. Now, we cannot do anything more with this, so we have subtraction and multiplication. Now, what we're going to do here, this sign in front of the 5 is a minus, which we'll count as a negative. So this is the same as saying negative 5 times negative 2. And we know a negative times a negative will give us a positive. So this will give us a positive 10. So now we add. We have negative 18 plus 10. Now remember I told you, you could do regular subtraction. And we know 18 minus 10 is 8. So we know our final answer is going to be a form of 8. But to determine what sign it has, we look at both of these numbers and ask ourselves, which one of these numbers is furthest away from 0? And we know 18, this negative 18 is, so our final answer would be negative 8. Now we go here to number 2. We look at our signs again. Well, first we look at this parenthesis. We cannot do anything inside of it. So now we look at our operations again. So we have subtraction, multiplication, exponent. So we know we would do the exponent first. So we would have 4 minus 6, and this negative 3 in parentheses squared, we can go off to the side and say negative 3 in parentheses times negative 3 in parentheses. We know will give us a positive 9. Okay, so we will have this minus 6 times positive 9. So now we have subtraction and multiplication. So we know we do the multiplication first. So we will bring down this 4, and we would take this minus 6 times positive 9. So we know a negative times a positive will give us a negative, and 6 times 9 is 54. Now we know 4 minus 54, we know that is subtraction, so we could do regular subtraction. We could say 54 minus 4, and we know that's 50. So we know we're going to have an answer that has 50 in it. Well, we look here. We know in our mind, and I'm going to write this down here. In our mind, this should be this in our head. 4 plus a negative 54. Now this is how we should be viewing this in our head. And just like we did here, negative 54 is further from 0 than 4. So our final answer would be a negative 50. Now we scroll down here to number 3. Again, we could do something inside this parenthesis. So we will read this as multiplication, the parenthesis, and subtraction. So we know we do the parenthesis first. We know that 5 minus 8 is a negative 3. Now, I'm going to say this again because we know 5 minus 8, this is the same as in your head as 5 plus a negative 8, which we know 8 is further from 0. This negative 8 is further from 0 than 5, and we subtract and get a negative 3. So now, we're left with multiplication and subtraction because we cannot do anything else inside this parenthesis. So we know we will multiply a negative times a negative is positive, and 2 times 3 is 6, minus 7. 6 minus 7, we know in our head this should be 6 plus a negative 7, and we know 6 from 7 gives us 1, and since negative 7 is furthest away from 0, it'll be a negative 1. Now number 4, we have an exponent, we have subtraction, we have multiplication, and parenthesis. We know we would do the parenthesis first. So we have negative 5 squared minus 8, and then parenthesis, negative 9 plus 4. We know 4 from 9 will give us 5, and since 9 is furthest away from 0, that'll give us a negative 5. Now, we cannot do anything more inside the parenthesis, so we have exponent, subtraction, multiplication. So we know we do this exponent first. Now off to the side, we know the only thing squared is the 5. So we have a negative, and then 5 times 5, which will give us a negative 25. So we know this is negative 25 minus 8 times this negative 5. Now, we have subtraction and multiplication. We know we'll do the multiplication first. So this is the same as negative 8 times negative 5, which we know is a positive 40. So it'd be negative 25 plus 40. Now we know we would take 25 away from 40, which we know would give us 15. And since 40 is furthest away from the negative 25, 40 is furthest away from 0 than the negative 25, we would keep this 15 positive. Okay, so now we go down here to number 5. So first, what we would do is this. Our numerator, we cannot do anything with it. So we'll carry it over. Our denominator, we have a positive 2 times a negative 4, which is a negative 8. A negative divided by negative, we know is positive. 56 divided by 8 is just 7. Now we go here to number 6. Remember, we do everything in our numerator and everything in our denominator, and then we divide them. So here we have multiplication, exponent, addition. We do the exponent first. So it'd be negative 2 times 9 plus 6 all over. Negative 5 plus 7, we know gives us 2. Now, I didn't have to put the parentheses here, and you don't either. You could just put the dot and then a positive 9 plus 6. So now in our numerator, we have multiplication and addition. We do the multiplication first. Negative 2 times 9 will give us negative 18 plus 6 all over 2. Now negative 18 plus 6, we know we subtract this, and that gives us a form of 12. We bring down our 2, but since negative 18 is furthest from 0, it'll be a negative 12 over 2. Now we know a negative divided by a positive is negative, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. So our final answer here is negative 6. Okay, now we're on problem number 7. We look here. We can do something inside this parenthesis. So we have our parentheses, exponent, subtraction, multiplication, and our absolute value. So first we're going to do this parenthesis. We have negative 3 times 2. A negative times a positive, we know it's negative. So it'd be negative 6 squared minus 5, absolute value of negative 8. Now this is equal to, we cannot do anything else in this parenthesis. We have our exponent, subtraction, multiplication, and our absolute value. Okay, now in accordance with the order of operations, we're supposed to do parentheses first. Now one thing I want to tell you is it's very rare that you all would do this, but absolute value is considered to be a grouping symbol. But like I told you all before, with parentheses are actually considered to be grouping symbols. So the next thing we would do is this absolute value. So we would add negative 6 parentheses squared minus 5, and the absolute value of negative 8 is positive 8. So we would change the absolute value into a parenthesis, and this negative 8 will become positive. So now we do this exponent, as we have exponent, subtraction, multiplication. So negative 6 in parentheses squared is negative 6 in parentheses times negative 6 in parentheses. Negative 6 times negative 6 is positive, and 6 times 6 is 36, minus 5 times 8. Now, we will have subtraction and multiplication. We know we do the multiplication first. A minus 5 times 8 will give us a minus 40. And we know 36 minus 40 will give us 4. But since the minus 40 is furthest away from 0, it will give us a negative 4. Now we go here to problem number 8. Now we look inside here. We have multiplication. We have this parenthesis and subtraction. So we go inside this parenthesis here, and we have another parenthesis. So we would do this parenthesis first. Negative 3 plus 5, we know is 2. So you add negative 4, bracket, negative 6 plus 5, parenthesis 2, bracket, minus 7. So we go back inside this bracket here. We know we cannot do anything with this parenthesis, so we have addition and multiplication. We would do the multiplication first. So you add negative 4, bracket, negative 6, 5 times 2 is 10, bracket, minus 7. So we go back inside this bracket here. We add negative 6 plus 10, which give us 4. So it'll be negative 4 times 4 minus 7. Because we know 10 is furthest away from 0 than negative 6, so we'll keep its sign. So now we cannot do anything else inside this bracket, so we'll have multiplication and subtraction. So we'll do multiplication first. Negative 4 times 4 will give us a negative 16 minus 7. And we know negative 16 minus 7, we will add them together. That will give us 23 and carry the sign. Because remember, in our head, we should be thinking negative 16 plus a negative 7. And they have the same sign, so you add them together. So again, our final answer for this problem here was negative 23. Now we go down here. Review finding averages. We have average. It's the sum of numbers. It's the sum of numbers divided by how many numbers you have. Now we have this question here. It says the graph shows the monthly normal temperature for Barrow, Alaska. Use this graph to find the average of the temperatures for months October through April. So they want us to go from October to April. Now what we would do is this here. We have our average is equal to, now we will have our sum of numbers. So we have October is 15. November, you can't really see it, but it's negative 1. December is negative 11. Then we have January, which is negative 14. We have February, which is negative 16. And we have March, which is negative 14. And we have April, which we can't see, but it's still negative 1. And it's all divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 numbers. Okay, class, I took the liberty of writing out the rest of this problem. We have 15 plus negative 1, which will give us a positive 14, plus a negative 11, which will give us 3. 3 plus a negative 14 will give us negative 11, plus a negative 16, which will give us a negative 27, plus a negative 14, which will give us a negative 41, plus negative 1 is negative 42. So we had negative 42 divided by 7, which is a negative 6 degrees Fahrenheit. So the average temperature in Barrow, Alaska from October to April is negative 6 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, if there's more time in this video, I want to try and add this out to show you. 15 plus negative 1, we already said is 14, plus a negative 11, which would give us 3, plus a negative 14, which would give us negative 11, plus a negative 16, which would give us a negative 27, plus a negative 14, which would give us negative 41, plus negative 1, which is negative 42. And that's how we get this negative 42 here. So negative 42 divided by 7 will give us negative 6 degrees Fahrenheit. And the average temperature in Beryl, Alaska from October to April is negative